Kevin Oldham, welcome back to segment 2 of the book review, Built to Sell. Built to Sell is about a 15-year-old book, and it ended up spawning a complete industry of people who run a piece of software and a system called the Value Builder system. I'm one of those people. So about 70,000 businesses have been through the Value Builder system survey that helps businesses determine where they are on the spectrum compared to their peers, how ready to exit they are. And this book kind of tells the story from a really casual perspective. And last week we went over the first 5 tips in the book Built to Sell from Alex Stapleton, the guy who is the subject of the story, the agency owner who really wants to sell his company but finds out that he can't. Sounds familiar. That was me in 2023. And he meets Ted. Ted's his mentor, and Ted is giving him various ways, tips, to be able to exit his business. And so we're going to go through the next 5. So Ted's tip number 6 is don't be afraid to say no to projects. Prove that you're serious about specialization by turning down work that falls outside of your area of expertise. The more people you say no to, the more referrals you get to people who need your product or service. The riches are in the niches. That's actually an ebook that we have available through the Value Builder system. By saying no to things that are not in your area of expertise, your zone of excellence, you're basically saying, I am an expert in these other areas. And people really respect that. What do they say? Master of, or jack of all trades, master of none. Be a master of what it is that you're an expert in, and ruthlessly say no to things that don't make sense. It feels really good, by the way. All right, Ted's tip number 7. Take some time to figure out how many pipeline prospects will likely lead to sales. This number will become essential when you go to sell because it allows the buyer to estimate the size of the market opportunity. This is just knowing your total addressable market and then how many conversations it takes to, or how many leads it takes to lead to a conversations to a closed opportunity. Knowing what that math is provides the eventual acquirer a degree of certainty when they acquire a business. It becomes a system that they can systematically utilize. And I'll give you an example. So we offer a free Value Builder assessment. You should see the link down below. That is the top of my funnel. And I know that it takes a certain amount of people that are in there to result in somebody actually completing the assessment all the way through. And then we market to them basically forever. And it's kind of like mining for gold. It's very much the same thing. So figure out what it takes to generate one customer, how many leads, how many opportunities, etc., and then store that math and recheck it every quarter. Because if you go to exit your business, that's going to be one of the most powerful things you can demonstrate. It shows that you have mastery over your customer acquisition component in your business. Ted's tip number 8. 2 sales reps are always better than 1. Who doesn't love a good old horse race, right? Usually naturally competitive types, sales reps will try to outdo each other. And having 2 on staff will prove to a buyer that you have a scalable sales model and not just one good sales rep. I love that. And I've seen that. I've helped manage sales teams, and it is cool to see a competition. I mean, frankly, it can be a lonely game if you hit a drought or something like that, and having somebody else that's doing the same thing to lift you up in the organization is just awesome. I love the fact that you can have a horse race with these individuals. They can push each other. But furthermore, what are we talking about? We're talking about de-risking things for the eventual acquirer. So knowing that they can systematically put people in, and there's not just one rainmaker, that if that rainmaker leaves, so does the book of business, reduces risk for the buyer and makes them willing to pay a higher multiple for the company. So it's just good business. Ted's tip number 9, hire people who are good at selling products, not services. This is my favorite, actually. These people will be better able to figure out how your product can meet a client's needs. They should have said customers, by the way, rather than agreeing to customize your offering to fit what the client wants. And I like to say customers, not clients. I think that's one of Ted's tips in here. If not, it should be. Clients are just using that word, right? It feels custom. It feels like you're going to create something custom for them, whereas a customer feels a little bit more transactional. Well, this is basically what Ted's talking about. Services get tuned a lot of times to a prospective client, but products are something that customers buy without a lot of tuning to make them custom. And every time you try to tailor something to a customer's outcome, your value's going down. It's not a scalable, repeatable, and teachable process probably. And it's probably a one-off type of scenario. It's also not efficient. That's what was happening with Alex here. He ran an ad agency and they were doing everything for everybody. And eventually they worked down to just a very concise logo product with a very cool wrapper on it from a brand name and a process, and it just worked. Okay, number 10. This is going to be the final one today, and then we'll be back next week. Ignore your P&L statement in the year you make the switch to a standardized offering, even if it means you and your employees will have to forego a bonus that year. As long as your cash flow remains consistent and strong, you'll be back in the black in no time. So what's he talking about here? In this book, Alex Stapleton was running this agency where he was an ad agency where he was doing everything for everybody. And then he niched down to this 4-step logo creation process, and they productized it. And when they did that, they started changing their payment terms. And all of a sudden, the math just kind of got sideways. It just did. You know, Alex was used to getting big retainer payments and all these things, and he kind of forego those to go with these smaller installments. And it can make the accounting, not necessarily cash flow, but the accounting look bad. And so giving yourself time to just work through that year and not worry about the profit and the loss, I'm not saying don't worry, just don't let it paralyze you, but focusing heavily on cash flow that year. And it's something I think everybody should always focus on is cash flow, because the business may show that it is unprofitable that year, and you may be able to not declare a bonus, for example, or something along those lines from a financial accounting perspective. But as long as the business can make it, right? And you go from customized work and all these varying degrees of complexity to something that's very standardized, I think that taking 1 year to reset your financials so for something that's super, super healthy for the future is good business. And as you'll see when we dig deeper into this book, that's exactly what was able to happen to Alex. He was able to obtain the number that he wanted to exit at the multiple that exceeded what he ever thought was possible before he met Ted. So I'm Kevin Oldham, certified exit planning advisor. If you are interested in this type of stuff, we have a free community. It's called Founder HQ, and it's actually on the platform School. I invite you to come check it out. It is free. We've got 81 members in there right now. The community is about 3 months old. We've got a couple cool things that happen every single week, where we're sharing knowledge, we're answering questions, and really just working together to lift each other up as founders, because it is a lonely game, and I don't feel like you have to do it alone. So if that's something you're interested in, link in bio. And we'll be back soon with next 5 lessons. And then the week after that, we'll have our final 5. And I appreciate y'all. Have a phenomenal week.